Welcome to Eyes and Teeth, The Water Rats, Season 8. This is Edition 9. Neil Crossland and I met in the Water Rats HQ in London, and for a few months I believed he was a comedian I had yet to work with. Then Water Rats would tell me of the suits they were wearing were made by Neil. Jimmy Osmond, Rick Wakeman, Dougie Brown. I literally started to hear stories about how well known Stagewear Unlimited actually was within show business. Neil was the man they would all go to with their measurements. Individual artists such as Jerry Marsden, Jess Conrad, Michael Jackson, and he recommended Neil to his sister Janet for her birthday. Word of mouth and the evidence on stage grew Stagewear Unlimited, and whether you're watching old footage of Stars in Their Eyes, the Grumbleweeds TV shows, New Faces, to Britain's Got Talent or Strictly Come Dancing, you can see Neil's and his team's handiwork. He's a delight to know and has the greatest stories to tell, so I will shut up now before I run out of material. Yes, that was a pun. Welcome, Neil Crossland. You had a rush job this morning, straight into the warehouse.
Well, last week I got a phone call from ITV saying they're doing this new show called The Real Full Monty on Ice. They start filming on Tuesday in Blackpool. Could I make them 7 outfits? So I said, yeah, I'll see what I can do. So I got stuck in and got them all made. It's for like, do you know Ashley Banjo?
Yes, not personally.
So one's Ashley Banjo, another one is Bob Champion. There's some guys off Love Island. They're all celebrities, that's on it. You know?
Okay, one of those.
Done, sent them all off, and then they rang me last night. Everything fitted apart from Ashley Banjo's trousers.
Needs to be twice as long.
They were long enough, but the rip-off trousers that they're having.
Yeah, I was going to say, surely they don't need any clothes from anybody, but these are to actually rip off. Were they Velcro? Do you make the Velcro around the back?
They're actually magnets down the side of the leg.
Oh.
The measurements they gave me for him was 36 waist and a 41-inch backside. And then when she rang me last night, says, we dropped a clanger, is a 42 waist and a 46 backside.
Oh, wow, it's gone up. Is that the lockdown?
I even alter them to make them fit. So I had to get one of my girls to come in this morning at 6:30, make a pair of trousers, and I've just dashed to the post office and sent them on.
Oh, wow. So, that's television, isn't it? Television's always last minute, and it's... We have to rush.
I had it day before yesterday. They rang up for Sunday. They're recording the Royal Variety performance.
Yes,
that's done in Blackpool as well.
Okay.
And they wanted some trouser making for Steps. Steps are on the Royal Variety, you know. The guys wanted trousers making.
All right.
They leave everything well the last minute, you know. So.
Now, in this business, you have to have great teeth and you have to have great eyes, but you're nothing if you don't look good on stage, and you have made thousands of entertainers look good on stage. Many of your clients become your friends, don't they? Like King Rat, Dougie Brown for 2020 and 2021. King Rat is a very close friend, isn't he? And you're like a double act, actually.
Close friend, yes. I've known Dougie since I was about 18 years old, I think.
Oh, wow.
So we go back a long time.
Yeah, 70 years. You are like a double act, though, when you're together. You banter off each other, you know. And because you've been around comedians for many years, haven't you? So you've got that...
Basically all my life. I've been in showbiz since I was 7 years old.
Amazing.
So I've always dealt with entertainers.
Your comedy skills are just natural, Neil, I think, because I started a WhatsApp group in March for the Water Rats, just so we can stay in touch. And it's been like a comedy masterclass, really. And you've been one of the culprits, actually. You and Johnny Manns, your banter as a double act was genius. And so,
well, I look upon Johnny Manns as my father. So, yeah, it's nice to have a bit of banter with him.
Yeah, he's my grandfather.
Initially, I was on the site fairly often because we'd just gone into lockdown and I was at a loose end. But then, things started happening. I had jobs to do, and then I decided to retire. So I'm stripping the factory down at the moment, emptying it. So I've not been on it too often, I must admit, just lately.
No, you know what? I started it off just for somewhere for the rats to go, to pop in and pop out whenever they like to, when they needed to. Sometimes you just need to chat, you need to laugh, or you need to just unload. And some of us have unloaded, you know, how we feel and stuff. And sometimes it's just good to be there. But it has become a breeding ground for the best and the worst jokes and videos for the past 9 months. Can't believe it's been 9 months, but it has. But you have got some of the best comebacks and banter on there. I'm going to call you Banter Claus, actually. I like. And
is that because I've got white hair?
Yes, I guess. So you have got this natural comedic ability, or is it the Barnsley way? Is it the?
It's just the Barnsley way, I think.
A great sense of humour, which is nice. Now, you talked about closing down, which is very sad to hear that you're closing down this building and workshop that's been your life for how many years?
Well, 68 years, something like that.
Wow.
I'm 75 now, so I'm at the right age to retire. I didn't want to retire, but, you know, with COVID, you know yourself, no entertainers are working. My main business is making for cruise ships, theatres, London theatres and what have you.
TV shows,
cabaret entertainers, and nobody's working. So, you know, I think I've lost probably going on £100,000 this year. So
do you know? Same here. I think it's a domino effect, isn't it, Neil?
Yeah,
there's so much.
Death of show business at the moment, aren't we? So.
What year did your workshop open? I can't work out the dates. So it's.
I opened Stagewear. I think it was about 1974.
Wow. Okay, year before I was born. So this is. It started really when you realised there was no one else making stage shoots for people. But how did you? How did you? Because you actually started to do that. How did you learn the skills of tailoring? I mean, knowing there's no one doing it, but then you go, I'm going to open this. Oh, hang on a minute. Can I sew? How did you start that process?
Exactly what happened. Yes, I mean, I used to be in the music business. I worked in my dad's music shop.
Okay.
And I used to play in bands all through the 60s. That's where I knew Dougie from my dad's music shop and the bands. And
brilliant.
And then when I stopped playing because my kids had been born and I was missing them, so I ran an agency for a few years, and I used to manage groups. And the groups used to come on to say, you're the manager, we want 5 yellow suits, can you find some for us, you know? So I was ringing around trying to find women to make things for the bands. And I thought, somebody ought to open a stagewear business. So, like an idiot, I decided to do it. And from day one, I suddenly realised, I thought, I don't even know how to measure anybody. So I went to a tailoring shop and I asked the guy to show me how to measure people, which he did. And then I thought, well, I found some women that could make up working from home. So I used to take the work out to them, but it was hit and miss. Sometimes it fitted, sometimes it didn't. And I thought, I need somebody to do the cutting out so they're exactly the same, and then the women just have to put it together.
Yes.
But I couldn't find anybody, so I thought, sorry, I'll do it myself. So I started with shirts. I got one of my shirts, ripped it apart, drew round it and put it on cardboard. I think I was a 38 chest then. I pinched my brother's shirt, who was a 40, drew round that, pinched my dad's shirt, who was a 42 chest, ripped it apart, drew around that. And I started cutting shirts out, giving it to the women, and they were coming back looking something like and fitting and that. So I used to go in charity shops and buy clothes, rip them apart, draw around them, put them on cardboard and make patterns. And then I started with trousers and then jackets, and it just built up over the years. And then suddenly I'm making for celebrities all the time. You know?
Oh, that's amazing.
It's not that I'm good, but I'm cheap. So that's why.
No, it is quality, isn't it, though? Not quantity. It's quality that you provide. I've seen your suits. Jess Conrad, Dougie Brown. We talk about Dougie Brown, but comedians you built for a lot. Actually, what you just described to me about ripping all the shirts, it's kind of what Incredible Hulk did, but you got paid to do it. It's kind of an incredible way of starting. That's fascinating how you got into it.
I made a lot of mistakes along the way, but and I still do, you know. But
yeah,
you just get through it.
Yeah, who's the? Do you remember who the first name was? The first famous person that you made a suit for?
Very much so. Yeah, I'd only been open a week, and
Oh,
the
good
door
start.
opened. I had a little shop then, and the front door opened, and Gerry Marsden walked in. Gerry
Wow,
the Pacemakers.
Pacemakers, yeah.
And he just happened to be passing, and he saw the sign outside saying Stagewear, so he called in. So we got to be good friends. We went to his house for tea a few times, and
Wow.
made for him for a good few years until he started being ill then, and it fizzled out a bit. The Grumbleweeds were one of the first ones that came onto me.
They were doing their TV show at the time, the Grumbleweeds, is that right?
Yes,
You were making for
I
their...
used to go every week to this was before they started the TV, but when the TV show started, I used to go to the studios every Wednesday. We used to sit down and they'd tell me what gags they were doing the following week and what characters they were doing, and I used to have to make the outfits for the following week, take them back again, and I'd take them on a Wednesday. They did the light and sound run through on a Thursday, did the performance on a Friday in front of cameras and everything, and then it went out on the Saturday on television.
Ice and Teeth. Fantastic. Well, there was about 5, or was there even 7 Grumbleweeds back then, though? When there was 5, wasn't there? Yeah. I saw an early clip of them on the Will Tappers and Shunters. Now, you probably made those suits, but they're... wow, that's fascinating. And Jimmy Cricket as well. You didn't make the hat and the boots, did you?
I've been making for Jimmy for many, many years, yeah.
Is that his jacket that he wears? He wears like a long tail jacket, doesn't he?
No, that tail jacket, that came from a second-hand shop, I think he got that. But
okay.
He wears other suits besides, but what we call a gum suit, a bit like Norman Wisdom.
Yes.
It's just a little bit too small for him, so it looks tight on him, but...
okay,
so
wow.
He's got a couple of gum suits.
Oh, amazing. A lot of comedians have walked through your door. So if I mention a few names, you don't mind telling me a little bit about your experience working with them. Now, I know that you worked in your father's music shop, and Charlie Williams used to come in to buy his PA system. And what do you remember about Charlie?
Charlie was a lovely guy. Charlie was one of life's gentlemen.
Yeah.
He never had a bad word for anybody. Great guy, and we got to be good friends. When I started, he used to come in my dad's music shop. We were friends then, because he lived in Barnsley anyway. And then when I started the business doing the stagewear, he came to me for his suits making, and I used to get him more bookings than his management. So in the end, he just gave me his diary, and being a Barnsley lad, he says, "Here, thee get me bookings." He says, "That gets me more work than anybody else." So I took over his book. I used to be his PA. I used to drive him everywhere. We've been all over the world together, cruise ships and everything. I got him on the QE2 once, through Jimmy Cricket, funnily enough. Jimmy had just come off it, and he rang me and he said, "Do you want to get Charlie on the ship?" So he gave me the contact, and I rang them up and put Charlie in, but I went with him. Mm-hmm. But funny thing was, then he was starting with Parkinson's, and he used to shake. His hands used to shake, and he had trouble fastening his shirt buttons and what, getting dressed. So I used to have to physically dress him. So we were in the cabin a few minutes before he was due to go on, and I got his shirt on, fastened the buttons up, put his dicky bow on, put his jacket on, but he would sit then with no trousers on, just in his underpants and shirt and everything. He would never sit in a pair of trousers because he didn't want to go on stage with creases across the front.
Oh, very much like Ray Allen. Yeah, Ray Allen was the same. Very clever.
And so at the last minute, I would say, "Right, come on, Charlie, I need to get your trousers on." So he stood up, and I had to get down on my knees and pull the trousers over his ankles, and it's unsteady, so he's got his hand on top of my head, trying to balance himself, lifting one leg while I got his trousers over, and then suddenly there's a knock on the door. And the door opened, and the maid walked in, and she saw me on my hands and knees in front of Charlie with no trousers on. And she just said, "Oh, I'm ever so sorry." And she turned around and walked away and never gave me a chance to explain.
Oh, no, you never explained. Wow.
So
I love that. I love the fact that you've got your own sound effects there. And
well, I have a desk in front of me.
Oh, was that the knock, was it?
Yeah, my knuckles are hurting now, because I did it hard so you could hear me.
Oh, no, you should have rung the doorbell. Oh, dear.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a lovely story about Charlie. I know that he was a lovely man. A lot of people talk about him fondly, and it's really nice to hear those stories. And bless him. And I didn't know that he had Parkinson's, which is quite sad to learn.
He had Parkinson's, and then he got Alzheimer's.
Oh, really?
Which
Wow.
was sad. Then he was in a home, so I used to go every other day and sit with him and feed him and everything, and he eventually passed away.
Oh, bless you.
It was sad.
Oh, I like to say thank you, bless you for looking after him. That's lovely to hear that. I mean, to have a mate of yours to go around the world and be your PA and even, I mean, you were a proper dresser. You didn't just make the clothes, you put them on him. So you were really there for him, which is nice.
I did that for him. I actually did the same for Craig Douglas.
Did you?
When he lost the use of his legs, initially they put calipers on his legs, and they did a show for him. Marty Wilde put it on in the Isle of Wight, and Craig couldn't get his dress trousers on because they wouldn't fit over the calipers. So I had to make him a special pair of trousers, and I shot down to the Isle of Wight, got to the booking about 20 minutes before it started, and I had to help put his trousers on for him so he could go on stage. I mean, they pushed him on in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
He couldn't stand,
Oh, wow, but he needs trousers. Oh, that's incredible. I didn't know that. So, Norman Wisdom, you've...
Oh, Norman, yeah.
You knew Norman, didn't you, as well? You did make his skimp suits, or...?
First time I met Norman, he rang me and said he wanted a suit making. He said, I've heard of you and I need a new suit. I put weight on. He said, would you come over to the Isle of Man? So I said, yeah, no problem. It's not too far from me, the Isle of Man. I can soon get to Blackpool and then get a plane from Blackpool over to the Isle of Man, because I used to go over there when Rick Wakeman lived on the Isle of Man. So I used to go to Rick's house, So,
wow.
I went over to Norman's, and it was lovely to meet him. Maureen went with me, my wife, and we met him in Peel in the street. We arranged to meet outside this restaurant, and he got out of the car and came towards us and bumped into a lamppost. Maureen ran to him thinking he'd hurt himself, but he obviously does it with everybody.
Every morning, the same lamppost.
He's the lamppost falls on the floor and does a roll, and it was great. But the funny thing was, we went into the restaurant for a meal, and we sat there having a meal, and halfway through, he just nudged me. I was sat next to him, so he just nudged me with his elbow. He says, I wrote a song once, I says, oh, did you? He says, yeah, do you want to hear it? So I said, yeah, okay. So he started singing Don't Laugh at Me Because I'm a Fool. And he sang it all the way through, and everybody in the restaurant, put the knives and forks down and listened to him. And then at the end, everybody clapped him. And he looked at everyone and said, oh, have you heard it before? and I thought, that's strange, that. And then the next morning I went to his house, and we sat in his house, and he has a big grand piano. And I said, I didn't realise you played the piano. So she was, do you know? He said, I'm not sure if I do. And he went and sat at the piano, tinkled a bit, and then he started playing Don't Laugh at Me Because I'm a Fool, and he sang it. So me and Maureen clapped him when he finished. And he said, have you heard it before? And then I realised that it was like I was seeing the same symptoms that Charlie used to have. And he started to get Alzheimer's around about that point, so we're just going into it. So it was very sad then. But
bless him,
he was a fabulous host. He looked after us.
Oh, conversational.
No matter whether there was 1,000 people or one person, he would always entertain and do the trips, wouldn't he? I saw him at a few openings of statues. He was at the opening of the Max Miller statue in Brighton, and he went to pull off the reveal, and it got stuck. And I don't think he meant to do it, but this was true Norman Wisdom style, and people were laughing because it got stuck and you only saw half of Max. But it was just, he was such a wonderful man.
When we left his house, he says, oh, before you go, he says, let me show you my Rolls Royces. So I said, oh, okay.
So he says.
So we went down in a big garage, and he pressed the button, and the electric the doors went up, and he took me in and he showed me his Rolls Royces and Jaguars that he had and everything. And then when we came out, me and Maureen came out first, and Norman stepped out, and he stood in the driveway and pressed the button, and the door started to close. And Maureen's going, Norman, look out, because it was heading to hit him on the head.
Yeah.
And he's going, what? And right at the very last moment, he took half a step forward, and the door missed him by about a quarter of an inch. it was all planned. He knew what he was doing.
It's amazing.
Obviously, it's party piece.
Yeah, it's like he had something for every room, outside or inside the house. He was just a complete beautiful entertainer. And I've listened to his Desert Island Discs interview on BBC, and it's such a sad childhood he had with his father leaving, and it's just a horrible thing to hear.
Childhood, didn't he? Yeah.
And then he just ends up entertaining people. I remember when he had Alzheimer's, he was staying at Brinsworth House in London, and the Brinsworth had a phone call and said, "Is Norman Wisdom staying with you?" And they said yes. And he said, "Well, we're in the garage 200 yards down the road. He's entertaining everybody in their cars on the forecourt," And that made me smile. But he just wanted to entertain non-stop, didn't he? And he was right to the end.
Yeah, I mean, when his son and daughter put him into a home, they wouldn't let anybody visit him, which was strange. But yet, when they showed it on television, he was in his element because he was entertaining all the old dears in their old people's home.
Yes,
so he was comfortable. He obviously was quite happy with the situation. But
I remember that.
Sad that they wouldn't let anybody go in and see him.
I also see that you've made a costume for Ronnie Corbett. That couldn't have taken long.
I never actually met Ronnie. That was just through... What was he on now? It might have been Strictly, because we used to make for Strictly when it first started.
Okay.
The first 5 years. So it could have, it might have gone on Strictly, and I might have done it for that. But that's just done through wardrobe department. They used to just send me measurements and say, "Can you make this?"
Yeah, so a lot of them will be phone calls. Now, I guess it would have been emails, but you get phone calls. But some people would step into your workshop, and some wouldn't. So you wouldn't meet everybody.
Oh no, I didn't meet everybody, but a lot of people I did.
I know that you did, and I'm interested in this one. Many people have spoken about Freddie Starr, but what was he like when he came into the shop? He came in a few times, didn't he?
Oh yeah, I made for Freddie for many years. I'd either go down to his house in Studley, or he'd come to me, and we'd go out for meals and what have you. He could be a great guy. He could walk in the factory and you'd see a sparkle in his eye and a big grin. He thought, "We're in for a good laugh." Yeah. And he used to go and have a laugh with the girls in the workroom. Other times he would come in and his eyes were glazed over and grey, and he was in a foul mood, and you knew that there's just no point in talking to him. And it could be a nasty piece of work. And I did have one situation with him where I'd made him a load of outfits. I mean, he used to order like 30 jackets, 40 pair of trousers, 50 shirts. They were good orders. And then he was going back to Spain. He'd finished his summer season. Well, he was living in Spain, so he went back to Spain. He ordered a lot more outfits, and he says, "I don't need them until next June. I'm coming back to do another season." So I said, "Right, okay, I'll make sure they're ready." So we got to about the first week in March, and he was married to Donna then, and Donna rang me and said, "Freddie wants to know if his outfits are ready." So I said, "Oh, no, not yet. I've got a few ready, but not all of them." So she says, well, he wants them now. I said, "Well, I've got all the fabrics and that." I said, "I've got about a dozen ready." And she says, "I'll have a word with him." She rang me back 2 minutes later, says, "Freddie's not very happy because they aren't ready." I said, "But he didn't want them while June."
Yeah.
She says, "No, he wants them now." So she says, "What have you got?" She says, "We'll pay you for what you've got, and can you send them down to us?" So I says, "Right, okay." And she says, "Forget about the rest of the order, he doesn't want it."
Oh.
So I wasn't very pleased. So they paid me, I sent his stuff down, and that night I went out for a meal with he's an agent, but he used to be an act called Trevor Chance.
Oh, yes.
He used to be a good singer back in the 70s. And we went for a meal, and I was telling him what happened. He says, "I used to manage Freddie." He says, "He's bad news." He says, "Your best thing to do is get rid of him." And I thought about it, and next day, I didn't have emails then, I just typed him a letter up and sent it saying, "I'm sorry, Fred, but I bought all the fabrics in lieu of making your outfits. You don't want them. I've had the embarrassment now of asking the company if they'd take all the fabric back off me, because it was no good to me. I said, it's been a bit embarrassing, so in future I think it would be better if you go somewhere else.
Oh.
So, and I felt great. I posted it. I thought, right, that's got rid of him. And the next morning, 7:30, the phone went. Freddie, why didn't you tell me I'd upset you? I said, Fred, you made my life a misery this last couple of days. And he apologised, and from that day onwards, we were best of friends. We never had a crossword or anything. And I think it was just because I stood up to him.
Yeah.
I don't think he was used to it. He was used to people like yes and no man, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Don't mess with Barnsley. Yeah.
I'm a Yorkshireman, I want my money.
Yeah, he should have known that.
After that, we were really good friends.
Oh, that's good to hear. Good. I like to hear nice stories as well, and as long as it's got a happy ending, that's lovely. Yeah, all the comedians. I'm just going through a few names, and if you think of any stories, I'd love to hear them. Jim Davidson, Stan Boardman. So, not all comedians are funny off stage. You know, it is an act, but a lot of people are natural. Stan Boardman's natural, isn't he?
Stan's natural, yes. I've been in his company with Dougie, and I've been in his company where I've been with Charlie. But I only made one dinner suit for him once, some years ago. Jim Davidson, I started making for him when he was hosting the Generation Game. And a lady called Venetia, who was in charge of wardrobe, rang me and said, could you make a flying suit? And I said, what's the flying suit? She says, well, it's for Jim Davidson. He has to come in on wires and fly onto the set. So I said, all right, yes. So just tell me where the wires are going through. I'll leave some holes for the cables to go through. And apparently, she'd been trying to find someone to make it, but the day before she'd seen Rick Wakeman at the studios, and he said, "Oh, ring my mate Neil in Yorkshire. He'll sort you out." So I made him a flying suit, sent it down, and she rang me and said, "Oh, it's great. He loved it and everything." And then they wanted couple more suits making for him, because when they opened the show at the beginning, he had a girl on his arm, and they used to walk down a staircase, step onto a carpet at the bottom, and it used to go straight through and into a pool of water. He had to have a couple of suits done, because if he didn't take the first time, he had to have a dry suit to be able to put on and do it again.
Oh, I see. So spares.
I said, right, I need his proper measurements. And she says, he won't let anybody measure him. I said, you're joking? She says, no. She says, it's funny, he won't let you in the dressing room or anything. So I said, right, okay. So I looked at him on television, and I guessed then, I thought, well, he looks about a 42 chest, 36 waist, something like that. So I made this suit, sent them, and luckily they fitted. And after that, I made quite a lot for him. But I never actually met him until 3 years ago at the Water Rats function that Ian Richards had put on, a golf night in Norfolk. Yeah. And he was the cabaret. And he came, I was sat with Dougie, and he knew Dougie, so he came talking, and Dougie introduced me, and once he realised who I was, he was very chatty then, it was great. But they always said that when he was backstage, he could be very funny, but it was all right that night anyway.
Yeah, as long as he's funny on stage, that's what we need, isn't it? And Shane Ritchie's doing really well at the moment in The Castle, actually. He really made me laugh last night playing tricks on people. But did you make for Shane for musicals or TV?
The last thing I made for Shane, it was in Benidorm.
Oh, okay. That was a brilliant outfit. I watched that recently.
I made him a sequin jacket.
Yes, yeah, that was yours.
I've never seen it. I've never seen the programme. But
it looks good on TV.
One of my mates was Bobby Nutt, comedian.
Oh, Bobby was in it, wasn't he?
And he was in Benidorm, and they needed this jacket doing, so Nutty said to the producers, ring my mate, he'll make it for you. So I made that, sent it down for Shane. Obviously, it was okay. They used it on the programme, apparently. So.
Yeah, well, in lockdown, Nina and I, we started Benidorm, but we watched the whole 10 series, and Shane Ritchie's in the last, I guess he's in the last two or three series, but that jacket stands out quite a lot. He's like an old, he's like a retired...
I've never seen him wear it. So.
Yeah, it's like a retired game show host, you know. I'll try and get a photo of it for you.
Sure, yeah.
No, it was great. Les Dennis and Russ Abbot, that must have been round about the same time. Was that the Russ Abbot show?
Russ Abbot, I I used to make for the Black Abbots, long before he was a name.
Oh, yes, yeah.
They were just the Black Abbots. So there was always a good name around the clubs and everything. So I used to make all their suits. And then one day I got a phone call from Russ saying, I need to see you, but without the lads. So I said, all right. So I went over to his house in Liverpool, and he wanted a suit making. He says, look, this is top secret. I need this suit making, but don't tell the lads at all. They mustn't know anything about it. So I said, okay. And I made him a suit, and he was just being launched by his management. They got a TV lineup for him, and he was just being launched as a solo act. But they wanted to do the pilot without the lads knowing, because if it fell flat, he'd need to carry on with the lads. So
yes.
He didn't want to fall out with them, so he was just breaking through at that point.
Okay, right. Had to make that decision.
Dennis
yeah.
came later.
All right.
It was a television program he did called Fee for Fi Yum. And I had to make him all lame suits, bright suits, all different colours, and lame shirts. And he was hosting the show. It was a kids program, and they had a giant on it. He was a big guy, but they used to do upward shots to make him look bigger. And when they shot at Les Dennis, they did downward shots to make him look smaller.
Okay.
And they had all kids throwing, like lettuces at him, and all sorts of rubbish like that, So I don't know. I think they'll try and knock him off a stool or something like that.
All right. Sounds like a game show, a Tisworth type
a game
thing.
show on TV, yeah.
Oh, okay. Now, Harry Hill, did you make the big collars? You must have needed more material for the collars, or were they just jackets?
Yeah, I've done a few shirts for Harry. Luckily, Harry's cousin, I think it is, she's on wardrobe on his show.
Okay.
Amanda, she's called. And I've done a lot of other programmes for Amanda, so she got me the job of making some shirts for him. I'm sure he had other people as well,
Yeah. I mean, how did you get Stagewear Unlimited the name out there? Was it word of mouth? Like people just walking in and then they would, like Rick Wakeman would tell somebody else and it spread like that? Or
Yeah. Well, when I first started, the first year, I put little adverts in the Stage and Television Today.
Oh, yeah.
The newspaper. So I advertised in that.
We all got that.
Yeah, so there was a little ad in the back of that. And then locally up north, there was a magazine called The Clubman's Guide.
Okay.
So I used to advertise in there for the club acts. And I think I advertised maybe for about a year, maybe 2 years at the most. And it was coming in faster by word of mouth.
Yeah.
Because nobody else was doing it. I was the only one and still am. So I never had any competition. Well, there used to be a guy in London called Colin Wilde.
Okay.
Just off Carnaby Street. And he used to do a lot. He used to do a lot of celebrities. And I was obviously a thorn in his side when I started. Because I was starting to get names coming. And I was pinching them from him. And then he shot himself really in the foot because I think it was the News of the World that did a centre page spread on his business, and he started telling backstage stories that he shouldn't have been telling, things that had been happening.
So like what you're doing now?
Yeah.
No, but like juicy stuff, do you mean?
Not to the public,
No.
Telling tales about Cliff Richards and
Jerry
Massey and things that went off that he'd seen.
Don't need that.
He shouldn't have, and suddenly they all stopped going to him.
Yeah, well, you say he shot himself
So
in the foot. Yeah, that's a shame. You have a great team working for you as well. Is it a family business? You have your children working for you, or
No, I've got one daughter in America, another one, she works for a rail company, and she gets far more money than I do.
Okay.
So no, it's no fun, apart from Maureen doing my books at home.
All right, yeah, my Nina does my books, yeah.
Yeah, she's a good cook.
Yes. But you, I just got that, yeah. So you need a big team, don't you, for the larger orders, surely? And I learned on your visit to the Thursford Christmas Spectacular last year in 2019, you came to see me, and it was lovely to see you there. But you told me you were the costumier for the show before I even came along. So how long did you work for Thursford?
Well, it used to be a lady called Linda Martin.
Yes.
That did all the costumes. And and funnily enough, she rang me yesterday to see how I was after all these years.
That's lovely.
And I made for Linda, she did the Royal Variety Show as well, so I got a lot of work through Linda.
Yeah.
And I always did the Thursford one every year. It was one of my biggest orders, that, every year. Fabulous show. Probably one of the best shows in the country. And then about 6 or 7 years ago, Linda, she got to be in 80s, 81, 82, and she retired. Another company took over, and they'd obviously got their own makers up, you know, so you have to move on, unfortunately.
But TV shows were always there, weren't they? The X Factor,
Yes,
Britain's Got Talent.
Yes, I still do those, yeah.
Yeah, even New Faces and Who Do You Do and Stars in Their Eyes. These are like TV shows that go back 30, 40 years. So
I used to make for New Faces quite a lot. That was done down at Central TV, so I used to go down to the studios. And
yeah, that was hosted in Birmingham, wasn't it?
Yeah, Birmingham, yeah. Yeah, they used to put me up in the Holiday Inn back in those days, which was amazing because I'd never seen a hotel like that with a swimming pool in it and everything.
Oh, wow.
It was all new then.
Yes, yeah, it must have been. I mean, for shows like Stars in Their Eyes, they must have said, right, this week, Matthew, we need an Elton John, a Whitney Houston, and would you send an Elton John outfit up with all the sequins and things, and or would they send you exactly what they'll need, or like Michael Jackson?
They told me exactly what they wanted. They'd send me the measurements. Sometimes I would go down and measure them. There's a guy called Gary Mullen that he was one of the outright winners. He does Freddie Mercury.
Yes, yes.
Made a good job of it as well. So I used to make his gear. There was another guy that did John Lennon.
I remember him, yeah.
Yeah.
He had his nose as well, didn't he? That guy had his nose. He looked like John.
Yes, he looked like him, yes. Yeah.
And I think, wasn't he is he in the bootleg Beatles, that guy? Is that the John Lennon from there?
I think he's in something like that, yeah. He's in the Beatles thing, yeah.
He is,
I don't know if it's the bootleg Beatles.
No, it might not be.
But he is in the Beatles tribute show.
Yeah, that makes sense, wouldn't it? Ice and Teeth. Did you know of Peter Brough, Archie Andrews, Peter Brough?
Well, I know of him when I was a kid. I used to listen to him on radio.
Yeah, he was a fellow Water Rat, but he took over his father's textile business. His Arthur Brough was his dad, and he was a ventriloquist, but he had a textile business. And Peter retired Archie in the late 70s, but he would use like writers and puppet prop makers to touch up Archie Andrews just to do charity events and things. And they used to do like shows at Windsor Castle. But these people that helped him out, like doing up Archie Andrews and, you know, repainting him, they've told me stories that they wouldn't get paid. I think John Fisher, who was a producer of many shows, and he would book Peter Brough, but Peter Brough wouldn't pay people with money. He would make them shirts. He said, "What size are you?" And he would send a big, like 10 shirts in the post and say, "Thank you so much for doing what you did." He was always a gentleman like that. But, you know, when Archie was being painted, my friend Jeff Felix, he said, "Well, I get shirts in the post for doing the paint job." And so it's fantastic. Did you ever pay your bills or parking fines with trousers?
No, afraid not.
No.
Always had to use cash.
Yeah.
Check.
Oh, but we might have to soon, didn't we? How do you sew?
I had a situation, funnily enough, talking about people not wanting to pay or anything. The very first jacket I ever did for Michael Jackson.
Yes.
It was a black suede jacket, and they sent me the fabric, and they sent me 12 solid gold buckles to put on this jacket.
Wow.
And I thought, I wonder if to just put 10 on and keep 2. And then I thought, no, I better not. Yeah. So I made this jacket, sent it off, and just afterwards, a local newspaper came to do a story, not on Jacko, but on me. So they sat there, we did stories about who I make for and everything, and I said I'd just made for Michael Jackson. And they said, "Oh, brilliant, like, you know, did he pay for it, or did you do it for nothing?" I said, "No, I'm a Yorkshireman, he paid for it. You know, I don't do anything for nothing." And I said, although in the past I have had managers that have rung me up and said, "Will you make for my client, who's a big name,
Yeah.
But would you make him a free suit or something?" You know, I said, no, I can pay for it, you know, but I'll make you one. So never thought any more about it. The story went out. what I didn't realise is the main newspapers tend to look at the smaller newspapers, see if there's any snippets of news they can pick on and make a story out of. And that weekend, Michael Jackson had just brought an album out called Beat It.
Okay.
This would be back in the 80s, early 80s, I think.
Yeah.
And the next thing, the front page, I think it was the Daily Mirror or the Sun, I'm not sure. But on the front page, there's a big picture of Michael Jackson, and there's a smaller picture of me on the other side. And the headlines was, Neil tells Jacko to beat it. And that was front page.
Wow.
I couldn't believe it, and I had to ring the newspaper and said, I didn't say that. I said, that you've made it up. He said, oh, it's only news, it doesn't matter. People have forgotten tomorrow. And I said, no, I could get sued by Michael Jackson for that. Anyway, they did put a retraction in about a month later, page 28, and 3 lines down at the bottom left-hand corner,
Do you know what? You're very clever, Neil, because you've got great publicity twice from doing that phone call,
Well, yeah. Yeah.
That's brilliant, even though it was unintentional. But I mean, it's what a story! Wow. But didn't Michael ask for you to make a jacket for his sister as well?
I made a waistcoat for his sister.
For Janet.
The management rang me up and said he'd like this waistcoat making for his sister, for Janet Jackson, for her birthday. And they sent me this fabric, and they said, we'll send it on a special courier. I said, oh no, just stick it in an envelope. It's only a metre of fabric. And he says, oh no, he says, we can't do that. It has to be specially couriered. When it came, it was covered in diamantes, and for 1 metre of fabric, it was $4,000.
Wow.
Which was about £3,000.
Yeah.
And it was just covered in diamantes, and I had to cut into it, and I thought, what if I cut it wrong?
Wow.
I'll be bankrupt if I have to give them the money back. But what I did, I cut one out in scrap cloth first, and we made it up, tried it on a dummy, and I thought, yeah, it's going to be all right. And then we then cut it out in the fabric that he'd sent.
Yes.
But because it was all glass diamante, we couldn't sew it on a machine because it would smash all the needles. So it all had to be sewed by hand.
Oh, of course.
Ages to do.
Wow.
But luckily, I got a phone call a few weeks later from his manager saying Michael was thrilled to bits with it, and thank you very much.
That's amazing. Wow. Yeah. I mean, it must have been, all these sequins and diamantes and things. They're very glamorous. I imagine that, because I know you worked for Julian Clary, Keith Lemon. Which ones were the most glamorous that you've made for? With so many sequins, where they're quite tedious putting all them on.
Well, it's built into the cloth.
Okay.
They don't all go on individually. You buy cloth with the sequins built in it, but it can smash your machines.
Yeah.
If the needle hits the wrong sequin at the wrong time, it can throw all the timing out, and then you've got to get an engineer to go in and fix the machines, which could cost you a couple of £100 then.
Yeah, it defeats the whole job.
Yeah. But no, the guy who has most of them is usually when I've done Rick Wakeman's capes.
Did you do a lot of his?
Over the years, and a lot of them are sequin. So.
Oh, amazing! Now his capes, he's very famous and renowned, isn't he, for wearing those at the Albert Hall? Did you do quite a few of those for his tours?
Yes, I did all the capes. Yeah.
Oh, amazing! That's wonderful. I'm still yet to see Rick live. I mean, we've been in lodge with him how many times, but to see him live is one of my goals. And I know he's touring again next year, so I need to get a couple of tickets.
It's a good act. It's a great act, and he packs places. Wherever he goes, he gets a good audience.
I know, yeah, Albert Hall, he does them all. But I'm kind of proud that I got to know him before I've seen him work, I worked with him once, actually, about 10 years ago. I'd done a comedy club down in Reading at the Hexagon, and Steve Rawlings put this show on, and it was for autism. And Rick was hosting this comedy. There was about 10 comedy acts. And
was Rick the funniest?
It was brilliant. Rick was really funny. He was really funny.
Well, going back to something like that, he hosted, there used to be a show on television called Live at Jongleurs.
Yes.
A comedy show. All the alternative comedy, when it was just all kicking in, maybe 20 odd years ago.
I remember that.
And Rick, it was filmed in Camden Town. Jongleurs was at Camden Town.
Yes.
And Rick rang me up, he says, do you want to come down and see the show? I said, yeah, great. So he fixed me up with an hotel. He says, I'll send a car round to pick you up. And he got me credits. It was televised. And it went out every week on television for a series. And he got me on the credits at the end, which was nice of him. And I had to make him... What it was that the producers wanted him to come out in between each act and introduce the next act. But they wanted him to wear a different jacket every time he came out. So
that's good for you.
About 60 jackets off me, I think.
Oh, amazing.
I had to take them to the Isle of Man, to his house. And I went to see the show, and he came on and introduced each comedian, but he was funnier than the comedians that were on the show. It was great, and he never swore once with all these alternatives. I mean,
no.
They can't open their mouth without swearing.
Yeah, no, I remember.
It's not my sort of comedy, but
sure.
it was brilliant.
Eyes and teeth. So Neil, when you came into the Water Rats, that was always lovely. It's so lovely to meet new people. And when I introduced Jimmy Osmond into the Water Rats, he's the only person at the moment that I've proposed. And I realised that you and Jimmy knew each other. And Jimmy was one of the most well-known performers in the world of variety. But the Osmonds were also friends, with the Jacksons. You've made for the Jacksons. You've made for the Osmonds. So how did you get to know Jimmy?
Well, I first he was doing a show in London, and he needed a silver lame suit. So this was done.
I know that suit. I saw him on tour in it. Yeah.
Right, yeah. I just got a phone call from the wardrobe lady, could I make a suit? So I said, yeah, no problem. So I made it, sent it down. And then about 4 or 5 years ago, I got another phone call from Jimmy's keyboard player. And he says, well, we're touring around Britain, doing a show around all the theatres. And he says, Jimmy wants some suits making. So, and he's mentioned your name. So I said, all right. So he said, we're working in Rotherham at the theatre on Saturday. I said, okay. I said, we'll come down and see the show. So me and Maury went to see the show. We sat in the audience, and Jimmy came on doing the show. I'd never met him prior to that. Okay. And he was halfway through his show, and then he stopped, and he says, right, ladies and gentlemen, he says, did anybody see my show in London? I wore this silver suit, and a lot of people say, yeah, we saw that. He said, wasn't it great? And they say, yeah, lovely. He says, the guy who made that suit is in the audience. And he made them put the lights on, and he had me standing up in front of everybody. Oh. And he says, right, he says, this guy's made for everybody in the business. He says, tell them who you've made for. And I said, I can't think of any. He says, come on, Michael Jackson, Northern Wisdom, Boyzone. He started reeling names off, and wow. Anyway, we went backstage afterwards, and I had a good chat and what have you. I made him a few suits after that, and he even had to come to my house at 3 o'clock in the morning. He was working in Liverpool, and the following night he was in Skegness, and he wanted these 2 new suits I'd made him, and he was going to pick them up as you pass my house about 11 o'clock at night, but it was a blizzard. It was January, it was snowing like mad, and he didn't get to my house until 3 o'clock in the morning. Blimey. So I had to make him a cup of coffee and warm him up. Then he could carry on then to Skegness, because he was travelling through the night.
Oh, that's incredible. When Jimmy puts his mind into something, he's one of the hardest working people I've ever worked with. He's incredible. He's an incredibly lovely guy. And I remember introducing, when he came into Lodge, we were down at the pub first, weren't we? And we all started chatting, and we were having lunch. Oh, it was so nice that you got to...
time about him, was there? Just one of the lads.
No, not at all, because he really cares about his fans as well. He's got time. He's given time to everybody, and I miss him. We all miss him, and it's so sad what's happened.
I just wish we could get hold of him again, but he's like... you just can't get hold of him. You know yourself. I've sent messages and I'm not getting replies at all.
Yeah, it's sad. We're hoping he can recover and come back. It'd be lovely to see him again. Now, have you made for any ventriloquists and their little friends?
Yes, yeah. Well, I know I mentioned one guy to you before, a guy called Tony Adams and Grandad.
Yes.
So I used to make his suits, and I've made for the dummy as well.
Oh, did you?
up here called Mike Dennett.
And Chick, yeah.
Mike Dennett and Chick.
I met Mike last year, actually. Yeah, lovely guy.
Yeah. And I think I did mention to you once that he actually came running in one day, and he says, "I've got a problem." He says, the sleeves ripped off. He had a little red jacket that the dummy wore, and he says, all the sleeves ripped all around the armhole. It's coming off. Will your girls fix it for me?
Oh, yes.
He says, I'm just on my way to a show. And he says, I can't work with it like that. Says, hang on, give it here. So I took it upstairs because I had the shop then and a little workroom above it before I had the factory. I said, hang on 2 minutes. I took it up and I gave it to the girl. I says, hey, just sew around this. Well, it's falling apart. So about 10 minutes later, she brought it back downstairs. Says, there you are. So I handed it over to Mike Dennett, and he said, "Do I owe you anything?" I said, "No, you're okay. Doesn't matter." So off he went. Next day he rang up and he says, "What the bloody hell did you do to me?" I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "They sewed the back of the jacket up. The back of the jacket is split so he can put his hand in. He'd gone on stage with the dummy, pulled it out of its case, and my girl she'd fixed the sleeve and then saw the back of the jacket was open, so she sewed it up." So it couldn't work.
I'm sure
he wasn't very pleased.
I'm sure all the ventriloquists that are listening to this are laughing their heads off because we know exactly what was coming then. That was brilliant.
Yeah,
I love that story. Wow. And I remember you telling me that, Neil, and I put that in my book. That is actually in my book, that story. It's so funny. The Grand Order of Water Rats started hosting lodges in Las Vegas for 4 or 5 years now, and every February, I believe, and it's probably sad that we're not going to be able to go on the next one, but what was that like? And were you tempted to drop a few business cards on the strip?
No, I never chase business.
No, it comes to you, doesn't it? It seems like
yes.
it.
If people come up to me and said, I hear you make for showbiz, will you give me a jacket? Fine. But I won't go up to people and say, oh, by the way, I'm a tailor, I make for people. I've never done that. It's embarrassing. But if we're going to Vegas again, you've got to come with it. It's one of the best experiences going. We have some great laughs.
Do you know what? I don't think I'm going to turn any holidays down after what's happened this year. I'm going to need to come. I think we need to. We need to chill out.
We've been 4 times now, and I've been each time, and it's a fabulous experience, and the camaraderie is brilliant.
Yes,
you'd love it. So, I would imagine it was the same with you last year when you took the party to Switzerland.
Oh well, you nearly made it. Bless you, didn't you?
We nearly made it. We got as far as the airport, and then Maureen fell and broke her foot.
Oh.
So we had to come back home, unfortunately.
Do you know we were gutted? Do you know that the responsibility you have when you organise a trip like I did for Chaplin's Museum in Switzerland, and I was so worried on that morning. I just hope everybody gets there in time, don't miss their flights, get to the airport, then we need to find the hotel, then we need to get everybody the next day to Chaplin's Museum. But when I got that call from Dougie Brown to say Maureen's had an accident, I was just thinking, I hope that you're just a little bit late and you can get there. But it was quite serious. She really did hurt herself, didn't she?
Well, when she fell, we picked her up and put her in the car because we'd gone the night before and stayed at a hotel near the airport.
Oh, bless you.
We got her into the car and we set off then to drive to the airport, and we pulled into the airport, drove into the car park. Maureen was sat in the back in agony. She says, I don't think I'm going to make it. She says, it's absolutely killing me, swelling. And we thought, we just drove around the car park, came out, went straight to A&E, and they x-rayed and said, oh, you've broken it in 2 places. So there's no way she could have made it for Switzerland,
No.
It was unfortunate. So
it's so sad.
Really looking forward to it.
I know, we missed you so much. It was so sad. But you're very busy there. It's probably Strictly Come Dancing or The Jungle or someone calling you for costumes now. But
I know. I'm sorry about that.
No, it's fine. It's
for
business.
Weeks, my phone hasn't rung, and now it's ringing all the flipping time. Probably Maureen saying your dinner's ready.
Yeah, but do you know what? It's probably my fault. I bet it's the WhatsApp Brother Water Rats group. Thank you so much for today. Now you've sadly, Neil, this year you've been forced into a decision really to downsize and start thinking about closing your shop. Literally this week, the photos came down this week, and it's your life stories in there, your life in that building. It's going to be very hard for you to move your last measuring tape from the premises. It's quite emotional,
I
isn't
don't know
it?
if you've ever been on my website, but
I had a look the other day. It's incredible.
On the site.
Yeah.
My factory is covered in thousands and thousands of photographs, and it's been my life. And people, they keep saying, don't ever move them. It's like stepping back in time. It's like being in the dressing room of a working men's club or something.
Yeah.
Don't ever change it. And Bernie Clifton came in a couple of years ago, and he says, Clubland ought to buy this place and turn it into a museum.
Yeah.
but they didn't, unfortunately. So, and it's sad. I'm taking all the pictures off the wall now.
Do you know what? Don't take them off your website, because it's wonderful to see. And I did look through them all. I think, and you start zooming in, think, oh, I know him, I know her, I know that group, And I saw a few ventriloquists, but it's incredible. It's like being backstage at Lakeside Country Club or the holiday parks I used to do. We used to see the Denman repros, the 10x8s.
Yeah, all the Denmans,
they're all up there in your workshop, and it's incredible to see.
It's always been good because you get a complete stranger walk in, and within 5 minutes, oh, crikey, I was in digs with him last month, and, I did a show with him, I did a summer season.
Yeah.
And it opens doors.
Do you know what you did?
Atmosphere.
Do you know what? You had Facebook. Your walls are Facebook before Facebook come along, because people stroll through pictures and reminisce about the good old days of the business, and they look at comedians and singers and things. And if they walked into your workshop, they go, "I don't need Facebook. I'll just look at Neil's walls."
Well, you see, back in the day, in the 60s, 70s, every act used to have posters, 10x8s, postcard size, and business cards, and that's how you got your work. But now they just have it on the telephone, or just on Facebook or whatever.
Yeah.
So I've noticed over the last 10 or 15 years that people aren't coming in and bringing photographs anymore. They'll just email me a picture.
I know, you can't put that up.
Print it out and put it up for them,
Oh, bless you. Well, we wish you all the best, and thank you so much for your stories and your history. And are you still building? Can I tell people that if you do need a suit, you may still be able to get a suit from Stagewear Unlimited?
Yeah, if friends or anything like that, anybody in the business, if I can help them out, I will.
Yeah.
I've still got my jacket maker. He works from home, so I've still got him.
Great.
I've got a shed at the bottom of my garden, a big shed, so I've put a cutting table in that. I'm taking some of the machines and putting those in. And
Lovely.
one of the girls, every now and again, when there's enough work for her, she'll come across and she's going to make some trousers and that for me,
Oh, lovely.
Whatever I want to do. So the bread and butter stuff I will still do, because I'm young enough to keep going.
Yeah, bless you. Well, I'm going to have to put my order in, and do you want me to advertise there's 18 sewing machines available, or?
Yes. Yes, you can sell that. Bit of commission coming your way.
Neil Crossland, you're a superstar. You're so loved in the lodge. We love seeing you there.
Steve, it's been a pleasure speaking to you, sir. And I hope we get another lodge meeting pretty soon.
Thank you so much, Neil. Appreciate it.
Okay, my friend. Lovely speaking to you. Speak later. Thanks. Bye.
Eyes and Teeth. Thanks to Neil and his team for serving show business as long as they did, and for as long as he is able to now he is downsized. What a career, and take a look at the link I have put with this post, as it's a full documentary on Stagewear Unlimited, and you'll get to see the shed and stars telling their own stories of working with and knowing the wonderful Neil Crossland. Today's quote comes from Rick Wakeman. Since the 1980s, I've been known more for my TV work. I used to host Live at Jongleurs and, of course, Grumpy Old Men. And so it's really all come from there. It's been a funny career, really. There are people that know me now as a TV person, a comedian, an interviewer. I've had people genuinely gobsmacked to find out I'm a musician. Sadly, I was one of those when I became a Water Rat, but now I know different. Thanks, Rick. Eyes and Teeth is written, produced and hosted by Steve Hewlett. Vocals by Lola, Larissa and Nina Hewlett. Additional vocals by Rich T. The Eyes and Teeth music and jingles are produced and performed by Water Rat, Kevin Dean. Join me next time on Eyes and Teeth when I will be talking to theatre, TV and classic movie legend Melvin Hayes.